Hello, everybody. I'm meteorologist Hutch Johnson. We do have another wave of snow that's going to be followed up by yet another wave of snow and some Arctic air for some. How far south will that Arctic air slide? And I'll have details in your forecast. Let's get started right now with a look around the area. Behind me is a look at the active watches, warnings, and the radar. Let's get started with that. First thing to keep in mind as we head into the next 24 hours, we do have a batch of snow that's working its way right now through parts of South Dakota, where we have a winter storm warning that's heading into the northern plains and into the Minneapolis area. Could be some minor impacts to travel there, but the warned area where we're expecting the heavy snow, that area is in South Dakota on the I-29 border. This is going to be making a beeline as we head through the next 24 hours to the Great Lakes area. More on that in the forecast here in just a second. However, as we look off to the west, we see another host of warnings in the Rocky Mountains of Montana, Idaho, western parts of Wyoming. That includes both West Yellowstone and the Tetons. As we look into parts of the southern mountains of Wyoming, we have activity showing up there as well. I see some folks checking in. Cheryl Johnson, I appreciate you watching. And anybody here, if you happen to be watching, drop a line in the comments. Let me know where you're watching from. If you have a question, leave it for me. I'm a meteorologist. I'll do my best to get to the answer or answer why we forecast the way we do sometimes. We also have warnings out in the mountains. Once again, we're talking about Oregon. We're talking about the Sierra Nevada outside of Reno and parts of eastern and northern California over my shoulder. More warnings there. And the system heading through the Great Lakes is going to impact New York once again. We have the yellow counties here in upstate New York with a winter storm watch. We're talking about Watertown and all basically will be impacted by the system making its way off the Great Lakes with higher amounts possible. We're talking 7 to 11 inches of snow based by what the National Weather Service says here in the higher terrain of the Tug Hill Plateau. 3 to 6 inches possible for the surrounding lower elevations. The timing on this is basically Thursday in the afternoon into Friday morning. And then behind this whack will be the Arctic air incursion. So we're going to go over that as well. We do have some light showers of snow heading into the Buffalo area. We do have winter weather advisories through almost all of Wisconsin, almost all of the mitten of Michigan, including Saginaw and areas north of Detroit and Toronto. As we look on to the south, we're fairly quiet over the next few days there with regards to the weather. Although, let's take a look at the severe weather potential real quickly from our friends at the Storm Prediction Center. So we'll turn that on here right quick and take a look at the outlooks for severe weather. Day one, here's a look at that. We'll go ahead and turn that on. And we see not much for that. Let's take a look at day two. Not much there. Let's go ahead and turn that. And nope, nothing really of significance there. Day three, looking at that. And no, not much in the way of severe weather for the deep south, the way things are looking with these weather making systems. Now, let's turn our attention. We know where the watches and warnings are. I'm going to turn those off, and we're going to take a look at what's going on with the snow systems that are going to be heading their way into the Great Lakes in the next 24 hours, and then one making landfall in the Pacific Northwest once again by loading up a model. But first, we'll turn off all of the watches and warnings so we can get a feel for what we have going on with regards to the model's forecast. We're going to look at basically a higher resolution model that will carry us through the next 48 hours. And I want you to focus first on this system that will be impacting the northern plains, the Great Lakes, and in towards upstate New York. Let's set this model into motion, shall we? And we'll get a feel for what it's pulling in and where this snow is going. Right through Minneapolis, right through Green Bay, north of Milwaukee, most of the northern half of Michigan, and then straight out towards New York State. So keep that in mind. Nathan, good to have you on board as well. Thanks for watching from the Fargo-Moorhead area. Now, as you can see, there's another system that's swirling its way out of Canada as we go through the next 24 hours, and another batch of flaky goodness is on store and in store. There's round one. That's the Clipper making its way through Ottawa and Syracuse in upstate New York. So this is the snow and wind maker for upstate New York. And that's as we head into the day on Wednesday. Let me go ahead and turn the timeline on so you can see that here. There you go. Okay, so now the modeled timeline is showing up for you. And I'll go ahead and slide through this for you so we can show you the onset of the snow in places like Minneapolis. you can expect Minneapolis, you're going to see some snowfall amounts, and we'll get to those in a minute. But I'm really thinking this is the region I work in, the upper Midwest. We're going to see about 3 to 6 inches of snow. The heavier amounts will be in the central to southern metropolitan area, Minneapolis, St. Paul, Green Bay, and the lake will see some, but rain for Chicago as we go through. Now, as we slide this through Sault Ste. Marie and all the way out towards Toronto, notice the grays you see there. Those are enhanced bands, and there could be some icing taking place for central Michigan. This model is picking up a pretty large area of icing potential from Muskegon through Grand Rapids, Lansing, all the way through the interstate corridor here as we go into Detroit and points north. So even though it's showing up as rain in Detroit, areas just north of there, according to this model, have a decent chance at seeing a brief icing period. Then as it works its way over the lakes, and we're talking about Erie as well as Ontario here, we'll have a chance at seeing some enhanced snow. Look at Toronto getting whacked by the gray colors you see here. Those are big flakes the size of your fist out there. Rochester, upstate New York, Buffalo will have a chance at a fast hitting system there. And this is basically going through tomorrow night. So this system races across the Great Lakes and out towards, well, areas near New Hampshire, Virginia, as well as Maine, and it's out of here. Look at what's on its heels, another system. And just so for purposes of explanation here, this system moves down towards St. Louis. Behind it, an Arctic air mass. We'll talk about that, but look where it goes. This one heads toward the nation's capital, Maryland, Baltimore, up to Philly, and once again, New York. So there could be another impactful system working its way through Pennsylvania as well as Washington as we head into the latter part of the week, Friday and Friday night. So keep that in mind as we go through. Now, let's take a look at this whole thing again with regards to those folks out west. If you're in the western United States, there's another system making landfall, and it's going to affect Oregon. Look at all the moisture there. It's going to affect areas near Reno. Heavy snow with rain once again in Sacramento and on the upwind side in the lower elevations of much of central and coastal California. So soggy weather indeed, but this lasts all the way as we go through the 15th and into the 15th, I should say, in the morning hours. So this one makes landfall tonight. When you wake up, a new dash of snow that will be heading into parts of central Nevada. As we look up to the north here, Yakima and all the way up here, not far from Snoqualmie Pass, this system will bring some snow showers to this area. The Wenatchee Pass area, as well as Kennewick, will see some heavy bouts with snow. Look at just outside of Portland here, the Hood River and that canyon, seeing a good fair amount of snow as you look as we go through our day on Friday. By the afternoon, this is going to be spreading into Missoula, Montana, northern Idaho with heavy bands of snow as well. Billings, Montana, and northern Wyoming seeing that clipper system develop and work its way through as well. Now, we did see that chance of some snow developing in the Rocky Mountains of western Montana. Here it goes through. The timeline on that is going to be Friday. Friday as we go through the night and into our Thursday night and into Friday morning here. Pocatello, Idaho, all the way to areas in Idaho Falls and Jackson, Wyoming, picking up some good ski and snow there in the Grand Teton National Park. There'll be some snow down in parts of the southern Wyoming as well, and near Steamboat Springs once again from this system as it works its way and churns its way down towards Colorado. So that is a look at that heavy snow to boot with this system. And again, we'll look at the snowfall amounts here momentarily. But first, I just want to let you know, with regard to the second day of this model that carries us into Friday, that second system heading toward the East Coast, a lot can change with that one, meteorologically speaking. So keep that in mind. And when I show you the next group of modeled information here that goes over our snowfall potential with this system, I want to definitely keep you in mind that the snowfall amounts that you see on forecast models are just guidance. I like to think of that as potential snow that could fall in the area with regards to any particular area, but not necessarily what the forecast is. So let's take a look at that snowfall potential with the models as we go through, and now we'll get you back to that right now. Okay, here we go. First and foremost, this is again modeled snowfall as we go through. Let's focus on the system moving out of Minneapolis now And I'll go ahead and show you that as it works its way through the northern part of the Great Lakes, anywhere you see the blues and even the pinks starting to show up, those are some significant snowfall amounts. So central Wisconsin and northern Wisconsin, and even not far from you in Milwaukee, then central Michigan and the UP seeing some healthy batch of snow. That moves up into the northern part as we go into Ottawa and to Toronto. Then upstate New York, it looks like we get some of that narrow banding, that lake effect snow type systems for you folks in Syracuse. And Rochester might see a little bit of a break from that, but Watertown maybe not so much. So the typical areas of lake effect snow setting up with that flow off of the waters of the big lakes. So keep that in mind. That's a look. Now, how much snow are we talking about with this as we take a peek through? Let me go ahead and pause this. And we'll go ahead and see if I can pull up the data on the, let me see. There we go. There's your time data. So you can see that. Now let's pull up the pointer. The crosshair here shows you the snowfall potential. And this is by Friday in the evening after the lake effect machine gets going. And we're talking 6 to 12 inches of snow for some. You know how that lake effect snow can be once that gets turned on. It could be very quick to get between 10 and 20 inches of snow. So upstate New York is where that's targeted. As we look into Toronto and areas north of Toronto, we're talking 3 to 6 inches from the model there. Now, how about central Michigan areas north of Detroit? There was some icing potential with the system in and around Detroit, Lansing as well. But north of there where the cold air is, we're talking about 6 to 10 inches of snow. For you folks in Lansing, Grand Rapids, it'll be a little bit lower. You'll be right on that snowmaking machine line there where there'll be a rapid increase in snow. Milwaukee, you're also in that zone where south of town you got barely anything to worry about, and then it's upwards of 8 inches of potential, maybe even a little bit more in parts of central Milwaukee, central coastal areas on up to Green Bay, as we see 3 to 6 inches for many of you. Up by Rhinelander, Wausau, Wisconsin, Eau Claire, we could see another band of heavier snow that shifts out of Minneapolis and St. Paul as we go through the evening tonight and into your Thursday morning. So this is Thursday morning snow here, and look how quickly it races out to the east. So that's a look at that. And by the way, if you happen to be in South Dakota, there's not going to be one wave. One wave is falling now. That's leaving at proposed, already measured 5 inches of snow in places, but another 3 inches or more on the way for some. So another 6 inches. That's what's heading toward the Twin Cities tonight. There's another band moving out of the Black Hills that will move through Pierre again. And we could see some places with the 2 systems that go through South Dakota, one now and one on Thursday. Those could add up to upwards of 8 inches or more of snow. All right, now a look at the snowfall potential real quickly in the Rocky Mountain West and out in parts of coastal California and outside Reno. Just look at this. You get into the elevated terrain and things really add up quickly as we go into the day on Friday. So by 6 o'clock Friday evening, 1 to 2 feet of snow. This model says there could even be a few places with 35, 40 inches of snow once again. Those are being picked up here outside of the Lake Tahoe area, where once again we had reports of upwards of 100 inches of snow in 7 days last week. So another system. The Truckee area of the I-80 pass through the mountains there is showing that we could see in the elevated terrain upwards of 40 inches or more of snow for a couple areas there as well. So keep that in mind. And looking outside of Oregon, again, the Bend area and also Klamath Falls, we're talking about 40 inches of potential snowfall. 3 feet could be possible for a few areas here outside of Portland as well. We could see a good foot or more of snow in the peaks out there. So winter will be followed up by cold that takes hold. And that's what we're going to turn our attention to now. Now, the cold that takes hold will be sliding out of the northern plains as we go into our day on Friday. So keep in mind that that cold air will be the coldest as it crosses out of Canada into the Dakotas and Minnesota. But that cold air is going to slide all the way down south. Let's show you how far south it goes here with a look at one model's depiction of this. This is the European model, and we'll go ahead and put this on your screen now for you so you can take a look. Now, as we take a look at these temperatures here, I do want to point out that the crosshairs indicate Well, let me get this back to Thursday. So as we start our Thursday in the morning, it's going to be cold through the Rocky Mountain West, all the way into central parts of Kansas here and the panhandle of Texas below freezing. So this dark blue line here, that is the freezing line. Keep that in mind. And that's something to watch, right? We're talking sub-zero air heading to the Dakotas and northern Montana, as well as parts of the Wyoming Rockies, as well as Minnesota up north. But let's go through this, shall we? Here we go. We'll step through this as we go into Friday morning. Will be the Look at that. The Arctic air starts punching in Friday morning into the northern plains. So we got 10, 11 below right on the international border out here in northern North Dakota and northern Minnesota as well. Now the 32-degree air makes its way all the way into West Virginia and Virginia, sliding southward through mid-Kentucky, central Kentucky, and heading toward the boot heel of Missouri, right? As we look down in the Rockies, it's all the way down south into central parts of New Mexico and Arizona as well. So that's where it goes by the time we get to Friday morning. But check this out. There's a cold front that's going to be making its way behind the system. So watch the blue line now as we advance it, as we go into the day on Friday. This is noon. Do you see this blue batch here? That's the cold front working its way southward. Watch where it heads as we continue our way through Friday. Deep south. Here it is. We're talking temperatures as we go into your Saturday at midnight Saturday morning, and then here is 6 a.m. on Saturday, and that blue line has the freezing air all the way down south, northern parts of Georgia, northern parts of Mississippi and Alabama, through central Arkansas, as well as you're looking in on Little Rock there at 33 degrees. That's mighty cold for our neighbors to the deep south. Even places like Oklahoma City down below freezing as this system brings a dash of cold air. This is a short-lived one though. The south winds start taking hold and the coldest of the air slides to the northeastern New England states as we get a nice rebound of temperatures as we head into Sunday and your President's Day on Monday. So keep that in mind. It's a short-lived slap of cold air working its way into the northern plains. Chuck, good to have you on from Arlington, Texas, the Rio Grande Valley. Golly, it's good to see you. I really love that. Thanks a lot. Spread the word about Hutch's weather. I like to try to make sure that I know where everybody's watching from and I can focus on you. It looks like, well, some parts of Texas are going to see some deep cold up by the panhandle as we go from Friday night and into Saturday morning. Keep that in mind. The good news is these systems don't look to bring an overabundant amount of severe weather to the deep south, but certainly some rain is going to be on the way as that cold, dry air mingles with you. I'm Hutch Johnson. I'm a meteorologist who's been a broadcaster for 26 years. I'd sure love to have you follow me. Here's a look at where you can do that both on Facebook and on YouTube. My YouTube channel right here has more national look at the weather. Medina, North Dakota. Mike, good to see you. A pleasure to have you on board as well. Some cold air heading our way, but we've been pretty spoiled this winter. Now, again, I'd love to have you, if you like the video, those likes really help me out, and the word of mouth, I just love having people know that you can find some good feedback from a degreed meteorologist here that goes over the forecast and gives you the real deal as far as what we're looking for on these models, what we think is good and what we think isn't good. And again, I'll remind you, the second day of the models you just saw, little questionable still, and that's why my friends in upstate New York have a winter storm watch instead of a warning issued yet until we get things posted and a little more clear. You have a wonderful, wonderful Valentine's Day, red tie included. Enjoy yourself, and thanks so much.